Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Traffic and Trade Group, and it is Monday, April 18th. Hopefully, everybody had a really nice long weekend. I think it would have been okay if you actually stretched the weekend out to 4 days because, I think the price action very, very difficult right now in this market. Of course, risk disclaimer in front of you before I forget. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes in these videos. Please read the whole risk disclaimer there. Yes. So, I think even if you're kind of playing the strength as I'm trying to do in this market, which is the energy, the agriculture, the commodities, the metals and mining, the materials, right? That is where this mix in a couple, mix in a defense company in there too. I think that even if you're doing that, this market is still very difficult. Because some of these names are not moving the same way as a traditional kind of high momentum type name. Some of them just kind of you just kind of have to sit in some of these energy names because depending on which ones you're in, some of them don't go up 3 or 4%. Some of them just go up like, 0.5%, 1%, and you can't really trade those too much. You just kind of have to be in them, and that's fun. That's a whole nother thing too. But what I think what we're looking at too is the breadth continuing to kind of narrow a little bit, and I think what we're going to need to see in the next this week, and of course we've got things like earnings this week, which I think we've got some economics that are going to come out too. But if we look at the calendar in terms of earnings, Netflix is going to set the tone for growth, even though Netflix is not, I would say, the end all be all company, right? That this is a streaming company and is more of a stay at home type company. So I don't know if Netflix is really going to move the market around that much, but we'll see. Alcoa reports later in the week, and then we'll get more and more names that report. So I really think that's what the market may be. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the market, but that may kind of move to the front in terms of things that we need to watch and listen to how these CEOs and who's going to be the next leader, what companies are going to be the next leaders of the next quarter. It won't all be bad. There will be some bad things that come out, in my opinion, for earnings, but I don't think it'll be all bad. My point that I was trying to make here too is that when we look at this S&P, and by the way, the price action today was just kind of ridiculous, back and forth, back and forth. The value areas, market, things that we rely on in the trading room every day, gave us some good clues, because in this market right now, outside of energy and outside of a couple of the groups that I just mentioned, right, you cannot chase any of these moves like in tech stocks or in growth stocks currently, right? That may change, but if you saw some green on your screen today and decided to kind of chase a couple green bars, you got clobbered. I would imagine, because I didn't really do that today, but that's been the story for 2022, is that you chase a little bit of technology or some type of growth. Again, it doesn't have to be tech, because tech has been a real underperformer, and we know that in 2022. But let's say some other growth areas of the market, that has just not worked, and it's very difficult to kind of take a stand at the lows in a name, because we were making a joke about this earlier in the trading room, is that you have to buy ugly, but you have to be careful of uglier, which has shown up a couple times this year. So let's talk about a couple things, but I think just to kind of give my viewpoint, is that we're going to need to see some things here, some other areas of the market begin to participate. As I said, the participation is getting thinner and thinner, and what happens is, when things get extended like this, right, you can see kind of what's going on in utilities, which I'm not sure, even though this is kind of putting in a bull flag, right, in the utilities, I'm not sure I want to play for a next leg higher, right? Certainly we've seen this in energy a few times now, but I think energy probably needs to cool off a little bit. For now, it's working well. And, you could see the trade blotter for me, and I'll come back to this, but, I took profits today in energy names. I took another target in CTRA. This is a name that I talked about on Bloomberg about a month ago. I think it was at this point. I like the setup, and that's working pretty well. I added Schlumberger last week. I actually took Schlumberger off today, not because it's doing anything wrong, but I just have to be cognizant of how many energy plays I have on right now, because I do feel it's getting a bit stretched. I actually took Alcoa off too. That was a trade that we added last week. So again, this market is about, making sure that you're locking in some winners right now, and then also just making sure that you're getting out of those losers. I put on a starter position in KBR last week. I took that off. Again, I just don't want the problems right now of having too many positions on and getting caught in something that is not working. I tried a little bit of XBI. We saw some call activity today, but that was started to get uglier too. Where did this close? So I'm like, I'm not, it's a good analogy right now, right? I don't want to be to get caught in a really ugly position. It's just not worth it. Because you could see this biotech, which was showing signs of life a couple of weeks ago. And there's a bunch of call activity today, but if I didn't see the call activity, right, this is not an area that looks very good. It's leaning back down. It's back below all the moving averages. It's below value now for the month. So this is a stay away for me. Now I day trade things, and I'll look for some things that may kind of, come up off the lows, but you can see how quickly I was out of this one, about now, not even an hour, I think. And where did this close? 83.59. So for today, I did the right thing, and it was a day trade, right? Day trade. All right. So that's my feel, and if we go over to the Qs, which again are not trending, as one of my market messages this weekend was, while these things are underperforming and not looking very good, you still have to monitor for changes, right? This market you can't be complacent ever, when you're trading, but especially like, with the energy trade and with the materials and mining trade, you can't get complacent with that trade either. There's going to be profit taking, right? And, the whole thing is when things, and that's the beauty of trends and uptrends, is that when an area consolidates, as energy did for a little while, and then broke higher, you want to be a seller into that break higher, right? And wait for it to kind of come back, wait for it to come back in, keep some things on, which is basically what I did today, right? You go back to my trades. What else did I do? Schlumberger, NOV was another one too that I added last week. Took another target in that one. I feel like I'm missing a name in here too, but Tech Resources, right? I took another target, 44.50, paid $40 for that one. That one I've been in a couple times. Newmont, I took profits in this one too, 85. Again, not a huge winner, right? Just a couple bucks out of this one. I think I got my earlier target on 86. So let's go through a couple of these things as I'm going back and forth between trades and charts here. But here's NASDAQ when it rallied a couple times today. Notice where it stopped, right at the bottom of value for the week, right? And this was the setup that I thought was kind of difficult coming into Monday, was that a lot of things, they of course, futures were down overnight, but I thought, hey, we could rebound. But we're going to be hitting, we're going to be hitting this bottom of value resistance. So that's what we did today. And, I try to be open-minded to see if something changes here. Clearly, there was an appetite for things like NVIDIA. We saw calls in that one. I saw some calls in Upstart. I saw some calls in AMD, but they could be momentum chasing a little bit, right? But I would watch this 1402 level. The Qs are going to look a little bit different. I think the Qs stopped right around the bottom of value. So you can watch this, basically call it 340 tomorrow in the Qs, to see if this can actually turn the corner. But you'll notice, like, last week was a good example. So here's the bottom of value for this week. Remember, I'm on the 1 hour chart. So these value areas are based on all the price and volume, and of course the time, which was a week from last week. So that range becomes important, right? And you could see, for example, last week, notice where price spent the whole week below value, right? And every time it tried to rally into the bottom of value, it failed again, right? So that's what a Dow trend is. And this value area, right, last week's value area was based on the previous week's volume at price, right? So again, it's very, it comes up and it's very statistical in terms of, or sorry, significant based on the statistics, where the volume, it's not by accident that price stops, right where it's supposed to turn, right? Or right where it needs to turn, right? So we're at that point again. Now, again, this is just the first step, right? Bottom of value, and then resistance is going to come at 345. But again, that would be a decent bounce, right? And that would be at least a starting point, right? And if you go back to the daily chart, right? Sometimes I do this backwards. Sometimes I start with the shorter time frames first because they give you little hints, right? Again, and if you look at this daily chart, you can kind of understand what I'm saying. You have to start somewhere, because this is ugly, right? This was the candle from Thursday, which was a bearish engulfing. It takes a while, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say it takes a while, but it's not easy for this to turn the trend, right? So here's the 5-period moving average. Here's the 50. Here's the 20. Here's the 200. So price is below all the major moving, you're going to add the 100 in there too if you like, but price is below all these moving averages. What is that by definition? What is that a sign of? Weakness, right? So I'm waiting for strength to come into this market. I'm waiting for buyers to show up, but below the 5-period moving average, below the 20, below the 50, below the 200 is a sign of weakness. All right. I want strength, and I don't want to be buying things that are weak right now. I would rather let the price action prove it to me first. All right. So that's what we got going on here. So, I think the 5-day moving average is something that I would want to see us get back above in the Qs. All right. I'm going to go over a couple of names that saw option activity. I mentioned NVIDIA. I get why maybe there's some spec. Remember with options, right? I think this gets lost a lot of the times because everybody likes option flow. What is option flow by definition when people are taking a long position? It is speculative, right? The big boys and girls are buying stock, right? That's what they do to establish a position. If they want to take a shot and be speculative about something, they buy options, right? And I think that's how retail investors should be thinking about it too. There's way too much emphasis on option activity for the retail investor, right? They always think, oh, they know something, right? Sometimes they may just be taking a shot at something, right? Because that you could only lose the premium. And especially when you have a market like this, where it's on the verge, something like this is on the verge of breaking down, right? I would be more worried if I held this stock. I would be more worried about a potential breakdown than anything else, right? Again, it's below the 5-period moving average, below the 200, below the 20, below the 50. It's a sign of weakness. But yes, somebody's buying weekly calls, right? So somebody's speculating. So what did I do today? Right at the end of the day, I added a couple of weeks, again, I'm establishing my how much I want to lose. For me, it's just a couple of the NVIDIA calls. I don't really want to lose too much, right? You have to get 2 things right. And in this market, it's hard enough to get 1 thing right? Whenever you're trading options, you need to get 2 things right: the timing and the direction, right? And like I said, it's hard enough to get the 1 thing right. So again, I took a small shot on NVIDIA, the weeklies, because I think it has a chance to bounce here. But that's it. That's all I would be really looking for. I'm not thinking that this can turn around here or do anything like that, because right now it is exhibiting weakness. You go back to my performers for the day. Again, nice to see the semis outperform a little bit, in a tough day. They were one of the best performing areas, but they've really gotten beaten up. We talk about this all the time with markets, that they don't go up in a straight line, down in a straight line. So after a huge move from 280 to 217, maybe a little bounce to 230 is in play, might be in play here. But that doesn't mean that this stock turns around. That means that it bounces, and then who knows what, because it's ugly looking. for now, right? And if you look at this weekly chart too, right, this thing got above value, which was 258 for about, it closed above value, had some follow through, and is back down. This does not look like a good thing. So again, just making sure when you see this option flow and everybody starts talking about it and they mention it on CNBC, oh, huge calls, right? They're not huge calls probably for the fund that's involved. All right. Some of these hedge funds, billions of dollars, right? And they don't mind taking a shot on something short term. So you just have to put things in perspective. All right. Is there anything else I wanted to talk about in today's video? I'll go over a couple things that, so here's again where it gets tricky, right? The CF has been, I've been in the CF several times this year. It's worked out for me really well, but is this a great entry here? No, it's not. I mean, we could see this continue to go, but it's a little bit better when this thing dips. So kind of like it's kind of in between. It's not stretched. It's not a move down to the top of value, but the group continues to act well. Look at NTR. Mosaic had a good day too. So, I put on a little, I've been out of the, I took my profits, I think last week in NTR. So a little bit of just, adding a little bit of a position in here. All right, guys, that is it. I'm not going to go through every single chart, but I did see some things, kind of back off the highs. Oxy was the big name that everybody was talking about this weekend. It's okay. I mean, it actually made a nice move, up 3.4%, right? And it's, a lot of names are doing this. A couple other, CTRA, I was a seller into that strength today. I still have the position on, that's when I chose this, to decide to keep on. Another one that looks interesting in the energy space is OKE. We'll wait for that to come up here and think or swim, right? Notice the, I like the sideways in an uptrend and then resolving higher, right? So that's one I would pay attention to. FANG's another one. No, I don't have any position in this one, but I have an alert set. 141 would be looking for this next leg higher, but just keep in mind, this FANG has been one of these slower movers, right? You could see that it really, going back all the way to mid-January, stock was at 130. It's at 140. So it's progressed, but it's also been back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. All right, guys, that's it for today's recap. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.